Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Registry of Deeds of Plymouth County. This show's about Plymouth County real estate. The headline for the month was Hot Real Estate Market Defies Conventional Wisdom During the COVID Crisis. This is a November show. We're reporting on October numbers. I have a great guest in the second segment of the show, M.Donahue of M.Donahue Associates, who will be talking about the status of commercial real estate. And in the third segment, we always do something lighter in nature and talk about some of our notable Plymouth County and Plymouth Colony records. So let's get right to the numbers. It was a strong month in terms of sales as well as mortgages this month. We recorded 1,202 deeds in October, up from the 1,142 in September, 25% more than last year, 1% less for the first 10 months in 2020, though the gap is closing fast. This was the highest number of sales recorded in all of this calendar year, 2020. The average sale price is up 1% from last month. Next image you're going to see is of sales of property for each and every one of our 27 communities. There were a large number of sales again this month, Plymouth and Brockton being the highest, but every community had a set of sales. Once again, mortgages are very, very high. For 4 months in a row, we were saying it was the highest number of mortgages recorded in 10 years, and that mortgage number exceeded last month's again. 3,447 mortgages recorded in October, up from the 3,261 in September. Fifth month in a row, the highest number for 10 years, up 30% compared to last October. And for 10 months in the calendar year, we're up 47%. Foreclosure deeds still remain low, despite the fact that the foreclosure moratorium has ended. There were 11 foreclosure deeds in October, more than the 2 in September, 65% less than last October, but 43% lower than last year this time. And foreclosure notices, which are the first document we see identifying that someone's in trouble, has also been really low, but there were 7 foreclosure notices recorded in September, 83% less than last October, 62% down for the first 10 months of the calendar year. Again, those are going to go up based upon the ending of the foreclosure moratorium. You're going to see a listing of foreclosure deeds and notices for all of our 27 communities. There are very large number of zeros. That'll change, I assume, next month. And anyone that's facing difficulty, don't hesitate. The longer you wait, the more trouble you will find yourself in. But reach out to a federal housing counselor to see whether they can help you by getting a modification or some opportunities to help you catch up, particularly with those that are out of work because of all the foreclosures. All the job losses due to COVID. So electronic recording numbers, thankfully, are really up because we're not open to the public. 80% for recorded land, 50% for land court. Again, the foreclosure moratorium ended October 17th. We're expecting high numbers, particularly in those communities like Brockton and Plymouth that were hard hit last time. M.Donahue is my guest in the second segment, talking about the current status of commercial real estate. We'll see you in the next segment. Welcome back to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Registry of Deeds of Plymouth County. This segment of the show, we always try to do something educational in nature. We've had commercial realtors, we've had commercial lenders, we've had a lot of residential realtors, surveyors, appraisers, everyone involved in the real estate community. Everyone plays a part. I have a great guest today. I have M.Donahue of M.Donahue Associates, who will be discussing with me the current status of the real estate market. Now, Mark was a guest before, and believe it or not, it was 7 years ago when we did this show.
Wow.
We're on our 121 show now, and your signs are still everywhere.
Yeah.
You guys are still a very active company.
Thank you.
And I remember your father, I always have to say.
Yeah.
I remember Henry Donahue.
Yeah.
Henry was involved in the business and
Yeah.
just a very, very active man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about how you got in the real estate business?
Well, I'm a proud son of Brockton. Graduated from Cardinal Spellman, well, St. Patrick's Grade School,
Yeah.
Cardinal Spellman High School, Massachusetts Maritime Academy after that.
Okay.
I spent 12 years working for an offshore oil drilling company based out of Dallas, Texas. We drilled oil wells all over the world. And in 1987, I got promoted into corporate headquarters in Dallas, Texas, working for the offshore drilling company. And I had 3 young children. And my father, Henry, who you mentioned, had a small residential real estate business in Brockton. And I decided to leave the offshore drilling industry, move back to Massachusetts. I had been living in Texas, and join the family business and really change the business from a residential company to a commercial company. And we built it up over the number of years. My brother Stephen is there with me, my son, my daughter.
Stephen's been on the show also.
Yep. And my son Matthew, my daughter Betsy, and there's a total of 7 of us in the office now.
Great. And you're right on Route 123.
Located in Brockton on Route 123. I have a lot of connections to a lot of organizations, the Chamber of Commerce,
Sure.
and a lot of the local accountants and lawyers. We have a lot of relationships, a long-term relationship with you and
Sure.
John McCluskey,
Sure.
a lot of the local attorneys. So
Right, right.
we feel like we're a very strong part of the community. I'm proud to serve the greater Brockton area and the entire South Shore.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, where was the office when Henry started it?
Henry originally worked for Bill Bierce.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, and then his first office was on Belmont Street at 248 Belmont Street. And about 20 years ago, I purchased a building at 457 Belmont Street, which used to be Bob Tighe's real estate office. So we've been at 457 Belmont Street across from the fairgrounds now for about 20 years.
Wow. Wow. So let's talk about the current state of the commercial market. I talked quite a bit on the show at different times more about residential and the refis that people are doing for residential real estate and the sales that mostly are residential in my report. How's it going?
Well, commercial real estate on a simplistic basis is really 3 primary segments of the market, which would be, for us, industrial real estate, retail real estate, and office space.
Mm-hmm.
Due to the pandemic, office space is very, very soft. A lot of people are working from home. There's mixed opinions about what's going to happen after the pandemic is over. The vaccine is working. So many people are getting used to working from home that they may not want to go back into a high-rise building in downtown Boston. And some of the companies can save a lot of money. You can save a lot of commuting money by working out of your home if it's appropriate. So there's been a major shift. I think there's going to be more office buildings in the suburbs. I think you're going to see more 2- and 3-story office buildings where you don't have to get on an elevator to get up to your office.
Mm-hmm.
It's very problematic getting people up to the 30th and 40th floor in an elevator with
Mm-hmm.
the COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're going to see smaller office buildings with opening windows, more social distancing built in architecturally. So that's going to change. Retail space is really been hurt by the pandemic. Amazon and the other internet providers are killing a lot of small businesses.
Yeah, I would think this Christmas season
Very
is
bad.
going to be really tough.
But on the industrial side and the manufacturing side, it's the strongest market I've seen in 30 years.
Really?
Prices are through the roof. Demand is through the roof. Replacement cost is through the roof. The cost for materials, the cost for labor, the cost for all of your copper, drywall,
steel,
rubber, anything that goes into building a building, the costs are very high and the demand is very high, and it's a very, very strong market. We're seeing buildings sell for double what they were selling for 10 years ago.
Yeah, clearly the COVID pandemic is going to have long-lasting impacts on a lot of things. I know in our case, 85% of our documents are coming in over the internet, and those law firms and mortgage companies and lenders aren't going to change that practice once they set it up. And just like you're talking about, the people that get comfortable and can work out of a closer home environment save the drive and are not going to want to go into that Route 3 corridor drive waste of time, you know?
Even Route 24
Right,
is problematic getting into Boston in the morning.
right.
But technology has changed everything. It's certainly changed the real estate business. I remember 20 years ago, we spent a lot of money advertising in the Boston Globe and the Patriot Ledger and other newspapers. And now all of our money is spent on the internet. And you mentioned real estate closings. We don't go to real estate closings anymore. It's all done electronic signatures. In some cases, the buyers never meet the sellers. The attorneys never meet. Everything's done via email.
Wow, wow. Yeah, no, it definitely enhanced, I think, modernization, you know?
It certainly made it a lot faster paced. You can get a lot more done in a day. You're not running to a fax machine. You're not running to City Hall even to get a final water meter reading anymore. That's all done remotely. So I think it's brought some positive changes. I think it's certainly saved everybody a lot of fuel. You don't have to do as much driving as you used to.
So I know you and your family have been in business a long time. I know anybody that is watching this show would recognize your signs because they're all over the place and very colorful signs. How do you typically get a client? I know you have built up a lot of clients over the years, but how do people find Donahue Associates?
Well, it's the signs are a big draw. We spend an awful lot of money marketing on the internet. It's probably
Give me an example of that.
well, we belong to various databases. In most people who are familiar with residential real estate know of the multiple listing service. Commercial real estate brokers don't use MLS by and large. Some do to a minor degree, but most of us belong to several large shared databases, the largest of which is called the CoStar system. And then there's LoopNet. So we spend a lot of money with CoStar, we spend a lot of money with LoopNet, we spend a lot of money maintaining and servicing our own website, which is DonahueAssociates.com. All of those signs you mentioned have the website on the bottom. It's amazing how many inquiries will come into the office at night or on the weekends when people are not working. They can Google real estate and Google a certain geographic area, and our name will pop up. You know, we get inquiries from people from out of state. We get inquiries from brokers from Europe who are looking in the greater Boston area. So the iPhone and the smartphones have really changed the business.
I know from residential realtors, their clients are so well educated already by the time they come to them. And you're telling me that, you know, the more limited clientele looking at the commercial space, any of the three sectors you're talking about, would already have a great idea and been able to look inside the building and everything.
Yeah, we can do drone videos, we can
Right.
do interior videos, we can shoot regular, normal photographs. Most of our buyers are people that are either their business is growing or their business is downsizing. But there was a very famous saying by Lee Iacocca, I think when he was president of Chrysler, and he said, in business, you know, you're either growing or you're dying, but very few businesses stand still. So fortunately for Donahue Associates, you know, the company continues to grow in terms of the number of transactions we do in a year and also the geographic area. You know, we're expanding radially now. We're doing more deals on Cape Cod. We're doing more deals
Okay.
out on Metro West.
Okay.
But still, our core business is the Route 24 corridor, the Route 3 corridor, and the Route 95 corridor.
Which are busy corridors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the turn of the year. We're coming up pretty fast to 2021.
Yes.
And what's your game plan for 2021, and how do you think it'll roll out? I mean, obviously, there are going to be changes, both, you know, in governmental management as well as hopefully the COVID situation. So what do you see as the first quarter of 2021 looking like?
I think that obviously there's going to be a new president. There's going to be a new administration. I don't want to talk politics.
Right.
I don't think that's appropriate for me to talk about politics
not-
or for
it's
you to
not-
talk
this
about
isn't the show for
politics.
that,
But
yeah.
I don't think personally there's going to be a dramatic change in the first quarter or the second quarter. I think those changes take time for the administrations to change. I think that the economy is going to change. It used to be that the real estate business was always you could almost count it as a 7-year cycle, a business cycle from high to low. This has been a prolonged period of growth. Primarily, I think, fueled by low interest rates. And I think that it's also fueled by our efficiencies as a country, because I think we lead the world in technology in terms of electronics, aircraft, defense industries. The rest of the world is catching up. The world is a much smaller place than it was 20 years ago. But I still think that most Americans still have a strong work ethic. And I think that I don't see any drastic changes in 2021. I think as long as interest rates remain low, the only thing that we can't predict, none of us can predict, is COVID. And it's a global problem. It's not a Massachusetts problem. And it appears that within the next, 12 to 18 months that we'll be able to get it under control with these vaccines. But I don't think it'll be completely gone.
Well, I remember as recently as a couple of years ago, a lot of economists and people in the business were saying our cycle was over. And it isn't over. It's still
Strong.
humming along. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's amazing that it's still going strong, but I think that the certain industries like the restaurant industry and the retail industry, I think that there's been there are a lot of people right now that are hurting that aren't as fortunate as you and I, and particularly the blue collar workers, the people who don't have a lot of education. They're victims of the economy, and I think that as business leaders, we have to be sensitive to that and do what we can, to help those people that are less fortunate than we are.
Yeah, no question there's a lot of people suffering, and clearly, in addition to that, a lot of different sectors of the economy have been hit differently by this. You know, the home building, the home selling industry has still been strong, and multiple offers on certain properties and higher sale prices every month, it seems like. Whereas if you owned a small business in a downtown of a town or a city, you're struggling. If you're competing against the online purchases in retail, you're struggling. If you're a restaurant and you're shut down for part of your time, you're really not making it in many cases. So different sectors are getting hit differently.
Very hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I'm not sure how that's going to come out of it in January and February and March.
I think the next 6 months is critical.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those people who have survived so far may not be able to survive if they don't get stimulus money.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right, I do too.
and I think that I'm optimistic that there'll be more stimulus money coming.
So how much of your business is reuse of current buildings as compared to new construction?
90%.
Really?
Yeah, there's not the thing that has been really phenomenal in the last 18 months has been the number of super large 300,000 and larger distribution facilities that have been built to accommodate companies like Amazon and some of the other internet providers.
Mm-hmm.
They're massive warehouses, super high ceilings with 36 foot of clear height.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have a lot of technology built into them. They have to have 50 to 100 loading docks. And there have been so many of these that have been built, and the vast majority of them are being taken by companies like Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything's being shipped directly to your home. Coffee, diapers, office supplies, groceries, anything and everything you can buy on the internet. So it's really changed the distribution business, the warehousing business substantially.
Yeah, I was driving down the street in Halifax yesterday, and there were 4 different trucks on the same small street on both sides of the street delivering packages to homes.
Yes. Yep.
So why don't you share with our viewers your contact information?
So it's Donahue Associates. We're located in Brockton at 457 Belmont Street. And if you have any questions or concerns or comments, you can call the office at 508-588-1717, or you can send an email to me personally, md@DonahueAssociates.com.
Great. I appreciate you coming on the show.
My pleasure.
It's been too long since the last one, but
Thank you.
I think the times have changed, and you're sharing some great information.
Thank you, John.
So have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and to all your viewers as well.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Welcome back to the Register's Report. Again, my name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we always try to do something lighter in nature. Some of the Plymouth County and Plymouth Colony records of note. I always mention the holidays for the month, this month being November. November 1st was the ending of daylight savings time. The 3rd was Election Day, National Election Day. The 11th, which is tomorrow at the time of taping of this show, is Veterans Day. The 19th, the Great American Smokeout, and the 28th, my favorite holiday, Thanksgiving Day. So let's go to our notable records, starting with Billy McGonigal. Bill McGonigal was a person who lived in Brockton. He was the son of Irish immigrants. He was a pioneer in the development of professional baseball. Back when he played, they didn't have gloves, so he started using bricklayers' gloves because he was a catcher, and catchers had a lot of difficulty catching the ball with their bare hands, breaking fingers. That was one of the main developments of gloves in baseball. He was also a manager because his playing days ended when his skull was fractured by a pitch in 1885, and he went on to become the manager of the Brooklyn Bridegrooms, so called because many of the players got married that year. The Brooklyn Bridegrooms later became the Brooklyn Dodgers, who then became the Los Angeles Dodgers, who won the pennant this year and won the World Series. In 1990, the Dodgers in Los Angeles celebrated the McGonigal family because Mr. McGonigal had managed the Brooklyn Bridegrooms to a championship in the American Association, and then in 1890 managed the Dodgers to their first National League title. So they celebrated that in 1990, and I hope when they do their celebration this year they remember the impact of Billy McGonigal when the Dodgers started out as the Brooklyn Bridegrooms. The next image you're going to see is of Deborah Sampson. We're celebrating Veterans Day tomorrow. Certainly she was one of our best-known veterans. She was born in Plimpton back in 1760, the oldest of 6 children. She dressed up as a man and joined the Plimpton Mass Regiment from Plimpton at the age of 21 under the name of Robert Shirtliff. She served for a 16-month period. She fought in battles at West Point in Tarrytown, New York, was wounded 3 times. She was honorably discharged from the Army in 1783. She later married and moved to Sharon, but her likeness adorns the flag of the town of Plimpton, and there's a monument in her honor on the Plimpton Town Green. In 1983, Deborah Sampson was named the Massachusetts State Heroine. And last but not least, as far as county records, based on the election results the other day, we have our second Irish Catholic president. This is an image of Honey Fitzgerald, who lived in Hull, had a summer home in Hull. He was the grandfather of President John F. Kennedy. Honey Fitz lived at 940 Nantasket Ave in Hull. He was elected to the Boston Common Council in 1891, served in Congress, became elected mayor of Boston, the first American-born Irish Catholic mayor of Boston, and he returned to office after being defeated. His daughter, Rose Elizabeth Fitzgerald, married Joseph Kennedy in 1914. So Honey Fitz was the grandfather of John F. Kennedy and Senator Edward Kennedy and Senator Robert Kennedy. And next, we're going to show you one of our colonial records that we do every month. This one's kind of an interesting one. It's reminiscent of what happened 300 years later when Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote The Scarlet Letter. In the colonial records, a woman by Mary Mendam for using dalliance at times with Tinson, a Native American, and committing the act of uncleanness with him, was whipped, dragged by a cart through the streets, and had to wear a badge upon her left sleeve. And if she was found without it, she would be burned in the face with a hot iron. Many people do remember the Scarlet Letter. Tidson was also whipped and put a halter around his neck and had to be at a post. Back in those days, the penalties in the colonial government were very severe. I want to thank Lorna Green Baker and Christine Richards for the help with this show. I also want to thank Emma Reardon of Brockton Cable Access for helping me produce and record this show. We tape this show. We share it with cable providers throughout Plymouth County, sharing with people for what most people is their most valuable assets. And thank you to those cable providers who provide that information. Thank you. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next month.